Hey Reddit, I'm Nate, 30, and last year I finally saw my family for who they really were. It wasn't about love. It wasn't about respect. It was about money. My money. And when I finally said no for the first time in my life, they lost their minds. It started with a phone call from my dad. I was in the middle of working, actually busy, unlike certain people in my family. When I saw his name pop up, I debated ignoring it. But I already knew what would happen if I did. He'd just keep calling. So I put my work on pause and picked up. Hey dad, what's up? Dad. Oh, so you do answer your phone. Thought you were too busy counting all that easy money you make. I blinked. Because, wow, he wasn't even trying to hide it this time. I forced a laugh. What do you want? Dad. What? I can't just check in on my son. I already knew where this was going. So I cut to the chase. How much do you need? Dad. What kind of question is that? The kind where we skip the fake small talk and get to the part where you ask for money. Silence. Then he sighed, like I was the one being difficult. Dad. Look, your mom and I are in a bit of a tough spot. I rolled my eyes. Dad, just a small loan. Something to hold us over. I clenched my jaw, because this wasn't the first time. Hell, it wasn't even the 10th. They had been pulling this same move for years. And every time I gave in. Every single time. Because saying no, it was easier said than done. They always made me feel like it was my responsibility, like I was the one who had to bail them out every time they made a stupid financial decision. But this time was different. I took a slow breath. Then I said something I had never said before. No. Silence. Then my dad let out a sharp, humorless laugh. Dad, excuse me? I exhaled. No more loans. No more transfers. I'm done. Another beat of silence. Then he lost it. Dad. Oh, you're done? You're done. Well, isn't that convenient for you? After everything we've done for you, you think you could just walk away? I clenched my fists, because this was always the pattern. If guilt tripping didn't work, they went straight to anger. I stayed calm. I didn't walk away. You pushed me away. The mom only call when you need money. You don't give a damn about me otherwise. Dad, that's not true. I laughed. Really? Okay. When's the last time you called just to check in? No requests. No favors. Just to talk. Silence. Because he had nothing. Then, in a low, bitter voice, he muttered, Dad, what kind of idiot actually pays you for what you do anyway? I froze. Because there it was. The truth. He didn't respect me. He didn't care about me. He just saw me as a bank account. I took a slow breath. Then I said, there will be no more transfers. And I hung up. I sat there, staring at my phone, waiting, because I knew this wasn't over. This was just the beginning. And when my phone started buzzing again, I already knew exactly how this was going to go. Because my family? They weren't about to let their golden goose walk away without a fight.
My phone exploded within minutes of me hanging up on my dad. First, the missed calls, then the texts, then the voicemails. I ignored them all, because I already knew exactly what they were going to say. It would start with guilt tripping, then turn into anger. And if that didn't work, they'd go nuclear. And sure enough, when I finally scrolled through the messages, I saw the whole pattern laid out in real time. First, my mom. Mom, Nate, your father is very upset. He didn't mean what he said. You know how he gets when he's stressed. Please don't overreact. Then my sister. Sister, wow. So you're just going to cut us off? After everything mom and dad have done for you? Then my dad, jumping straight into rage mode. Dad, you're acting like a spoiled brat. You wouldn't even have money if it weren't for us. We gave you everything. I rolled my eyes. Everything? I had been financially independent since I was 18. The only thing they ever gave me was a lifetime of obligation. And now that I wasn't playing along anymore, they had no idea what to do. I tossed my phone onto the table and tried to go about my day. But the calls didn't stop. The texts kept coming. And eventually, they started dragging other people into it. That evening, my aunt called. She was the mediator of the family, the one they always sent in to smooth things over when real consequences were about to hit. I debated letting it go to voicemail. But honestly, I was curious to see what excuse she'd try to sell me. I picked up. Hey, Aunt Lisa. She sighed dramatically. Oh, Nate, your mother is just beside herself. I didn't say anything, because I wanted to hear what she'd say next. She doesn't understand why you're acting like this, she continued. You know how much your family loves you, right? I laughed. Because wow, there it was. The same bullsh asterisk T they had been feeding me my whole life. Love? No. Love wasn't conditional. Love wasn't transactional. Love wasn't something you only gave when the bank account was open. I kept my voice calm. Aunt Lisa, be honest with me. If I had sent the money, would we even be having this conversation? Silence. She hesitated, which told me everything. I smirked. That's what I thought. Nate, she sighed, you know it's not like that. I laughed again. No, Aunt Lisa. It's exactly like that. Then I hung up. At this point, I figure I had made myself clear. No money. No more transfers. No more playing their game. But my family? They weren't done. Not even close. Because if guilt tripping didn't work, if anger didn't work, they only had one card left to play, and they were about to go all in. The next morning, I woke up to a message that made me pause. It wasn't from my parents, or my sister, or even my aunt. It was from my boss. Boss, hey Nate, your dad just called the office. Said it was urgent. Everything okay? I froze, because now they had gone too far. They had actually called my work. I took a slow breath. Then I replied, me? Yeah, just family drama. Sorry they dragged you into it. Won't happen again. Boss, no problem. Just wanted to give you a heads up. I clenched my jaw, my fingers tightening around my phone. Because this wasn't just desperate. This was insane. And now, I was about to make sure they never pulled this sh*T again. I scrolled through my blocked contacts, unblocked my dad, and sent one final message. Me, you ever call my work again, and I will file a harassment report. This is your final warning. Then I blocked him again. And guess what? That finally shut them up. The next few days were silent. No more calls. No more texts. No more dragging other people into it. And for the first time in my life, I actually felt free. But just when I thought I had finally won, my family pulled one last, desperate move. And this time, they made it personal. Because a week later, as I was heading home from work, I saw someone waiting outside my building. And the moment I saw who it was, I groaned. Because standing right there, looking way too pleased with herself, was my mom, holding a suitcase. I exhaled. Mom, what are you doing here? She sighed dramatically. I came to see you. I crossed my arms. What? She hesitated. Then, in the most pathetic voice imaginable, she said, I don't have anywhere else to go. I blinked. Then I burst out laughing. Because wow, she was really doing this. I shook my head. So, let me get this straight. You show up uninvited, with a suitcase, expecting what? I'll just let you move in. She gave me a pitiful look. I'm your mother, Nate. I rolled my eyes. That's not an answer. She sighed heavily. I just need some time to get back on my feet. I smirked. So let me get this straight. You and Dad mocked my career. Called me an idiot. Treated me like an ATM. And now that I'm not giving you money, you suddenly need a place to stay? She didn't say anything, because she knew I was right. I exhaled. You're unbelievable. Her voice dropped into a whisper. I don't have anywhere else to go. I tilted my head. Then I said the one thing she never expected to hear. That's not my problem. Her eyes widened. Nate. No, I cut her off. You made your bed. Now lie in it. Then I turned around, walked inside, and locked the door behind me. Because this time, I wasn't saving them. They were on their own. For real.
I closed the door behind me and leaned against it, taking a deep breath. My mom was really out there, with a suitcase, no less, trying to guilt trip her way back into my life. For years, she and my dad had treated me like a walking ATM. They had mocked my career, belittled my choices, and only ever called when they needed something. And now that I wasn't funding their lifestyle, she wanted to move in with me? Not a chance. I stood there listening. For a second, I thought she might start banging on the door, but she didn't. Instead, I heard footsteps retreating. Then, silence. I exhaled. Good. I walked over to my window, pulling back the curtain just slightly. She was still there, just standing in front of the building, staring at her phone. I didn't know if she was texting my dad, my sister, or my aunt. Probably plotted her next move, but I didn't care. I had made myself clear. She wasn't getting a single dollar from me. She wasn't moving in. She wasn't even stepping through my front door. For the first time in my life, I wasn't falling for it. And now she had to deal with the consequences. I kept an eye on my phone, waiting for the next explosion, because I knew this wasn't over. My mom, she wasn't the type to just give up. And sure enough, the messages started rolling in. Mom, Nate, I'm sorry. I didn't want it to come to this. Oh, here we go. Mom, can we just talk? Face to face. Please. I ignored it. Mom, you don't understand what's happening. I had no choice. I narrowed my eyes. No choice. Now I was curious. So I responded. Me, what do you mean? No choice. 3 dots popped up, then disappeared, then popped up again. Finally, she answered. Mom, your father kicked me out. I froze, because I hadn't expected that. Not at all. I sat down, staring at my screen. My father kicked her out? For years, they had been a team. They had always been on the same side when it came to guilt-tripping me, playing the victim, and try to manipulate their way into my bank account. And now, suddenly, they weren't? I exhaled. Something wasn't adding up. I made myself a coffee, sat at my table, and really thought about it. If my dad had kicked her out, that meant 2 things. Their financial situation was worse than I thought. The only reason she was here was because I was her last option. That was it. It wasn't about making things right. It wasn't about an apology. It wasn't even about reconnecting as family. It was just about what she could get from me. And that sealed it. She wasn't staying with me. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not ever. I took another deep breath and sent my final response. Me, that's not my problem. Then I put my phone on silent. I wasn't playing this game anymore. She made her choices. Now she had to live with them. Hours passed, then a full day, and just when I thought I had finally shut it down, there was a knock at my door. And when I looked through the peephole, it wasn't my mom. It was my sister, and she did not look happy. I sighed, but I opened the door, because I already knew if I didn't, she'd just stand there all night. Me, what do you want, Emily? She stormed in without waiting for an invitation. Emily, are you serious right now? I closed the door. Oh, great. We're doing this. She turned, crossing her arms. You really just let Mom sleep on the street? I raised an eyebrow. Did she sleep on the street? She hesitated, which told me everything. I smirked. No, she didn't. Because you took her in, didn't you? Emily clenched her jaw, then muttered, yeah. I let out a short laugh. So what's the problem then? She glared at me. The problem is that you're acting like a complete asterisk hole. Mom's struggling, and you don't even care. I sighed. She's struggling because of her own decisions. Emily scoffed. You're so selfish. I shook my head. No, Emily. I just finally stopped letting them use me. And now, they don't know what to do. She threw up her hands. Oh my God, Nate. It's not about money. I laughed in her face. Because that was the funniest thing I'd heard all year. I stared at her. Emily, what's the first thing Dad said when I told him I wasn't giving them money anymore? She didn't answer. So I answered for her. He mocked my career, called me an idiot, treated me like I was worthless. Silence. I took a step closer. Not a single word about family. Not a single word about love. Just straight to insults. You know what? Emily swallowed hard. What? I smirked. Because without my money, I don't matter to them. Her face twisted. That's not true. I shrugged. Maybe not to you, but it is to them. I grabbed my keys and walked to the door. You done here? She exhaled sharply. You're impossible. I smiled. And you're predictable. Then I opened the door. She glared at me one last time before storming out. And as soon as she was gone, I locked the door behind her. Because that was the last conversation I was ever going to have about this. They could call me selfish. They could call me cruel. They could call me whatever the hell they wanted. But at the end of the day, I wasn't their piggy bank anymore. And that was final.
I locked the door behind my sister and leaned against it, letting out a slow breath. I was done with the guilt, with the manipulation, with the constant feeling that I owed them something. For the first time in years, I had put up a real boundary, and they hated it because now they actually had to face the consequences of how they had treated me. No more easy money, no more bailing them out, no more me fixing everything while they sat back and did nothing. They were on their own. For real. The next few days were quiet. No calls, no texts, no guilt trips. And honestly, it felt amazing. I finally had peace. But a small part of me kept waiting because I knew my family too well. They weren't just going to let this go. And sure enough, I was right. 3 days later, I got a message from an unknown number. Unknown. Hey Nate, it's Dad. I know we haven't talked in a few days, but I think it's time we clear the air. I stared at my screen. Because wow, this was new. My dad had never been the let's talk it out kind of guy. Which meant one thing. This wasn't about clearing the air. This was about control. He thought enough time had passed. He thought I had cooled down. He thought I was ready to fall back in line. But he was about to find out just how wrong he was. I let the message sit there. Didn't respond. Didn't acknowledge it. And that's when the real pressure started. First, it was more texts. Dad, ignoring me isn't going to fix anything, Nate. Dad, this family doesn't turn its back on each other. Be an adult and talk to me. Then came the guilt trips. Mom, Nate, please. Your father just wants to make things right. Emily, seriously, Nate? You're still holding a grudge? Grow up. Then, the threats. Dad, fine. You want to act like we don't exist? Don't expect us to be here when you need something. I laughed. Because wow, that was hilarious. Like I had ever needed them for anything. Like they had ever been there for me. Like I was losing something. I shook my head, put my phone on silent, and went about my day. Because if they thought that was going to scare me into compliance, they clearly hadn't been paying attention. But just when I thought they had finally given up, they pulled one last desperate move. And this time, it was personal. It happened on a random Sunday. I was out running errands, minding my own business when I got a text from a friend. Friend, dude, your sister just posted some wild SHD about you on Facebook. You good? Asterisk. I frowned. Then I opened the app, and the second I saw what she had posted, I felt my blood boil. Because my dear sister Emily had just put my entire family drama on display. For everyone to see. The post started off innocent enough. Emily, family is supposed to be about love and support. But sometimes, people show you who they really are. Then, it went off the rails. Emily, it's sad when certain people think money is more important than family. When they turn their backs on the people who raised them just because they don't feel like helping anymore. Some people forget where they came from. I clenched my jaw, because now she was playing the victim, making it sound like I had abandoned my family for no reason. Like I was some selfish monster who had turned his back on them out of pure greed. But the worst part? The comments. Because our relatives, the ones who had no clue what was really going on, were eating it up. Aunt Karen, wow, I can't believe Nate would do that. That's not how we were raised. Cousin Mike, damn. Some people forget who was there for them when they had nothing. Family friend, so sad. You deserve better, Emily. I laughed out loud, because this was pathetic. They were actually trying to turn people against me. Like some Facebook pity post was going to make me change my mind. But what really got me? The last comment. From my dad. Dad, we raised him better than this. We'll pray for him. I exhaled slowly, because that was enough. I wasn't letting them control the narrative. Not anymore. I took a deep breath. Then I did something I had never done before. I posted my own response, and I made sure everyone saw it. Me. Funny how family only talks about love and support when they need something from you. Here's the truth. Me. I helped my parents financially for years. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. And what did I get in return? Insults. Mockery. Entitlement. Me. The second I stopped giving them money, they turned on me. They called my job. My landlord. They even tried to guilt me into letting them move in. And now they're trying to play the victim. Me. Family isn't about blood. It's about respect. And I'm done being disrespected. Me. You don't get to treat someone like a bank and then cry when the vault closes. Have a great life. I hit post. Then, I logged off because I had said my piece. And my family? They had just burned their last bridge. For good.
I posted my response, logged off, and waited. Because I knew it was coming. The reaction, the meltdown, the desperate attempts to spin the story back in their favor. And sure enough, it didn't take long. Within an hour, my phone was blowing up. First, my sister. Emily, WTF is wrong with you? Then my dad. Dad, you just humiliated your own family. You're disgusting. Then my mom, playing the victim card. Mom, how could you do this to me? I carried you for 9 months. I raised you. I loved you. I shook my head. Because wow, even after everything, they still didn't get it. They weren't mad that I had told the truth. They were mad that I had told it publicly. Because now, everyone saw them for who they really were. and they hated it. I ignored every single message. I didn't argue. I didn't explain myself. I didn't engage because I was done. And the best part? I didn't feel a single ounce of guilt. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the one cleaning up their mess. They had dug this hole. Now they had to sit in it. The next few days were silent. No more texts. No more calls. No more guilt trips. Because they had finally realized I wasn't budging. And honestly, that should have been the end of it. But my family? They don't know how to let things go. So they tried one last time. And this time, they went nuclear. It happened on a random afternoon. I was at work when my phone buzzed. A notification from my bank. At first, I thought it was fraud because it was an attempted withdrawal for $5,000. I froze because I knew I hadn't authorized anything. And when I checked the transaction details, my stomach dropped because the name attached was my mother's. I immediately called my bank. Hey, I just got a notification about an unauthorized transaction. The rep pulled up my account. Yep, I see that. It was attempted using a linked account. I frowned. Linked? What account? She hesitated. It looks like a joint account with your mother. I felt my blood boil because that was an account I hadn't touched in years. One I had opened when I first started working. One I had forgotten still existed. And apparently, so had my mom. Until now, I took a deep breath, declined the transaction, and removed her name from the account immediately. The rep nodded. Understood. Anything else? I clenched my jaw. Yeah, flag any future attempts. If she tries this again, I want to be notified immediately. Got it. I hung up. And now I was pissed. Because this wasn't just manipulation. This wasn't just guilt tripping. This was theft. And if my mother thought she could just steal from me and get away with it, she was about to learn just how wrong she was. I called her. She picked up on the first ring. Because of course she did. Mom. Oh, now you want to talk? I cut right to the chase. Me? Did you really just try to steal from me? Silence. Then she let out a fake laugh. Mom. Steal? Don't be ridiculous. It's a family account. I was just borrowing it. I gritted my teeth. Me. That's not how that works. You didn't ask. You didn't tell me. You just went in and tried to take money that wasn't yours. She scoffed. You're being dramatic. I laughed. Because wow. She really thought she could gaslight her way out of this. Me? I already had the account locked. You won't be touching a single cent of my money ever again. Her voice turned angry. Mom, you ungrateful little. I hung up, and this time, I blocked her for good. That was the final straw. No more family ties. No more second chances. No more waiting for them to change. I was done. For real. And the best part? I felt nothing. No guilt. No regret. No doubt. Just peace. Because I had finally learned the truth. Family isn't about blood. It's about respect. And my family? They never had any for me. So now, I had none for them. Months passed. Then a year. And my life got better. No more constant stress. No more money-draining emergencies. No more feeling like I was just a paycheck instead of a son. I thrived. And my family? Well, let's just say things didn't go so well for them. One day, I got a text from an old friend. Friend, dude, your dad is selling his car. Things must be rough. I smirked. Because honestly, I didn't care. That wasn't my problem. It never was. And it never would be again. Because for the first time in my life, I was free, and I was never looking back.